It's bonanza time for shooter fans, with 3 upcoming titles due out in the next few weeks, all wanting a piece of that competitive esports pie. Team Fortress 2, Call of Duty 4, but now we've got enemy territory Quake Wars.
Competitive pants time, Jung. Quake Wars takes place before the events of Quake 2, when the Strogg invade Earth. It's a multiplayer-only game, although you can play with bots. It focuses on the intelligent combining of abilities. Individual aim is important, but fizzles in the face of smart tactics.
It's the first AAA title from the game's developer Splash Damage. Paul Wedgwood, lead designer on the project, caught up with us at E3.
We started out originally, Splash Damage that is, as a mod team working on Quake 3. We produced a mod called Q3F and it was pretty popular. In fact, over in Australia you had OzQ Fortress, or OzQ3 Fortress, as one of the big fan sites that everybody used to go to play our mod. And as old clan players ourselves from the Quake 1 days, we kind of had a sense of what people wanted in a competitive game. We still have that kind of mod-making mindset within the office, which is just everybody's really passionate, not particularly efficient, but does their best, you know, to try and make everything as good as they can do, so that when a player jumps onto a server, they have a really cool time.
Not only is this game aiming to be fun online, it's aiming to be one of the few that are good enough for competitive play.
We've come up with our own list of what a competitive game needs to be successful. First up, teamwork. A team needs to be greater than the sum of its parts. Quake Wars gives you a definite advantage if you combine abilities.
Such as fending off flyers with a rocket launcher while your engineer builds the objective. Or EMPing a turret so your tank can get past. In fact, if you don't work as a team in this game, you're gonna get...
We've lost side leader!
Up next, easy to learn and hard to master.
That's right, it should be accessible enough to bring in new players, but containing enough depth to keep them. So far, so good on this one, although the game hasn't been out long enough to see any real masters.
Anti-cheat software is very important. Quake Wars uses Punkbuster, which has been reliable in the past, but not completely foolproof.
Well, I suppose nothing's foolproof. Performance is another one. Can it run on middle-range PCs? And I'm afraid the answer's a no on this one. It also plays very badly with lag, so dial-uppers, this one's not for you.
A good competitive game should be spectator-friendly. There is a spectator mode here, Jung, but there's no shoutcasting support, so there's nothing too special.
Next to last is modability. The community will want to make your game better, so why not let them? As expected, Splash Damage realized this, and a dev kit will be out.
And finally, balance.
Balance. Balancing 2 asymmetrical factions is the holy grail of competitive game design. We asked Paul Wedgwood how he went about it.
What we have is 4 different approaches to play testing. We have production testers at Splash Damage, which are ex-pro players, usually from sponsored clans like Return to Castle Wolfenstein teams and stuff. We have focus testing for complete newbies coming in who may not have even played a PC or an Xbox game before. We have a full-time crew at Activision that play round the clock, finding bugs. And then we have the open betas, of course, where the community at large gives us a whole bunch of feedback on balance. And it's this kind of heuristic approach of, you know, lots of passionate debate or arguing and just kind of iterative revision that then gives us a balanced, you know, really balanced gameplay.
The factions aren't actually as asymmetrical as they seem. In fact, the weapons are very similar, which means most of the balance in this game is going to come down to map design. And from what I've seen so far, most of the maps are biased towards the defender.
But surely, Jung, in a clan match, they're going to restart and go from the other side as well halfway through, so isn't that balance?
Well, it's not, and for 3 reasons. I mean, you've got the morale disadvantage to think about of the team that starts on the losing side. And then you've got luck to think about. You know, say you don't get any points in the first half, and then you switch sides and the other team gets 1 lucky point. Thirdly, there's statistics. When you have one side that's easier than the other, it skews the scores downwards and closer together, which is not an accurate depiction of skill.
But are we really just splitting hairs here? Because at the end of the day, the best team is still going to win.
But we've seen this before in games like Counter-Strike, where you have a choice between one map that's balanced on both sides and one that's biased towards one side. The competitive community far prefers the balanced one.
And it really needs the old ET community to get behind it as well. However, when a game like this is released, it tends to split the community, thus making it weaker. It has some imaginative objectives. For example, one map is split in 2 by a portal, another one requires you to use little drones to fly through vents to complete objectives.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
If you're not heavily into clan-based and teamwork-based gameplay, you're going to be finding yourself wanting a little bit more. It's not really for the casual gamer, Jung. I'm giving it 6.5 out of 10.
Yeah, it feels less like a mod and more like a game to me. Clan matches in Quake Wars will end up somewhere in between Battlefield 2 and old enemy territory, where small teams have to practice complex maneuvers in order to get objectives done. I also like the fact that we got this before the US, so I'll finish off with a nee. From a competitive perspective, I'm giving this 8 out of 10 rubber chickens.